This is Daniel in so many words.
Hey there everyone, my name is Daniel, and in so many words, I probably shouldn't travel through time. Like, ever. Don't get me wrong, there is a litany of things that I would love to change about both my personal history and history at large, but I think there are just so many potential problems with time travel that I just don't think it's worth the risk, even if I had the means to do it. Reason number one, I don't have the means to do it. There are many different proposed theories for time traveling, and one of the most developed ones involves something called wormholes, which are basically these hypothetical tunnels between two different regions of what is referred to as space-time. Theoretically, you would have to travel faster than the speed of light in order to punch a hole through the fabric of space-time, thus allowing you to time travel. And the only real issue with this is just the tremendous amount of energy that this would actually require, which according to my calculations is only, well, I don't know, the amount of energy put out by a star exploding. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't have the ability to go around casually causing supernovas, because if I did have such godlike power, I'd probably use it for more important things, such as revenge on my enemies. Reason number two, I would most definitely end up creating a paradox. Or 5. One of the biggest issues with traveling through time is just the idea that by doing so, we would create a paradox, which science deems as an artifact of incompleteness because we assume that all reality is completely consistent. Two of the most often discussed and explored paradoxes in both science and pop culture are the ontological paradox and the grandfather paradox. The ontological, or bootstrap paradox, refers to scenarios in which someone in the future gives something to someone in the past, and whatever they gave them ends up being the very thing that the person in the future will eventually give to that past person, thus creating some sort of cause and effect loop where the thing that is being exchanged between the future and the past has no discernible origin. One example I'll share, because it's a valid excuse to make a Legend of Zelda reference, is a paradox that's created by the Song of Storms in Ocarina of Time. Adult Link goes to Kakariko Village and meets the Windmill Man, an old man who is very angry because 7 years ago, some stupid kid played a song in his ocarina that ended up causing a huge storm and damaging his beloved windmill. Link then goes back in time and goes back to Kakariko Village as a child and plays the Song of Storms as a child in the windmill, thus causing the storm that damages the windmill to begin with, thus being the catalyst to the Windmill Man's anger, thus being the entire reason that Adult Link knows the song, and thus being the only way that a time-traveling child Link could have learned the song to cause the windmill's damage to begin with. The other paradox that I mentioned is called the grandfather paradox, and again, as a flimsy excuse to make a fandom reference, I'll talk about its use in Futurama. During the episode Roswell That Ends Well, Fry ends up accidentally killing his own grandfather, which is ironic because at the time he was actually trying to prevent his grandfather's death, knowing that his death would prevent his father's birth and thus his own birth. However, Fry continues to exist only because he ends up having sex with a woman that would end up being his grandmother, which allows him to father his own father and allow himself to be born. And of course, this allows the timeline to be consistent once again, which allows Fry to go to the year 3000, get everyone stuck in the 1940s, kill his own grandfather, and bang his own grandmother. This is because of something known as Novikov's self-consistency principle, which says that the only possible timelines are those that are entirely self-consistent. This of course means that Fry's act of incest must have been part of history all along, and that means that nothing he could have done in the 1940s, including killing his own presumed grandfather, could have prevented his birth. But maybe let's think of the grandfather paradox on a slightly smaller scale than causing one's own non-existence. For example, I would love to go back in time and stop something embarrassing like me accidentally hitting a girl in the face with a basketball during recess, which I've actually made a video about here on YouTube. However, doing so would have erased that moment from history, thus erasing my motivation to go back in time to begin with, which means I wouldn't have altered the timeline, but then that means that I would have hit her in the face with a basketball, thus creating a paradox. Not to mention that if I erase the basketball incident from history, I also get rid of the video I made about it, because I obviously wouldn't have had that story to tell. Now, obviously that video is not my magnum opus or anything, but if I hadn't made that video, I probably would have made something worse in its place, like another video of me trying to do an English accent. And I'm sure no one wants to hear that again. Reason number 3, I cannot be trusted to maintain consistency within timelines for the sake of not altering history drastically. One of the biggest issues with the idea of time travel is something called the butterfly effect, which, believe it or not, is not just a mediocre movie starring Ashton Kutcher. A quick Google search defines the butterfly effect as a phenomenon in which a minute, localized change in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. The idea behind this is that even the smallest change in something, like the flapping of a butterfly's wings, could potentially have large-scale, drastic effects on something like the rotation and power of a tornado. And let's be honest with each other here for a second. I would definitely use time travel to fix even the most minute problems in my life, which could potentially have drastic consequences, perhaps for the entire world. Going back to my earlier example, yeah, if I were to prevent the basketball incident, it would certainly save me some humiliation, and it would save her the pain of being hit in the face with a basketball. But even if I made that small change to my own personal timeline, it could somehow still spell disaster on the large scale. What if, by not hitting that girl in the face with a basketball, some other chain of events begins to occur that would have otherwise been prevented, resulting in some disastrous alternate future where monkeys rule over men, or the entire human race is wiped out by a nuclear holocaust, or where I actually watch Doctor Who? Look, all I'm saying is that because of these and probably many other potential problems, I should probably never, ever travel through time for any reason, ever. Then again, if I go back in time to 1996 and give Satoshi Tajiri the idea for Pokemon, I could become a billionaire and I'd be set for life. Oh man, that'd be awesome. I mean, yeah, sure, this small change might result in some sort of butterfly effect that affects things on a larger scale, but really, what could possibly go wrong? Meanwhile, in an alternate timeline in which I didn't do something quite that stupid. Nah. So, if any of you could travel through time, where would you go and what would you do? Let me know in the comments below. But until we meet again, insert catchphrase here. Da 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 da